The primary key is a field you designate that's going to uniquely identify a record. So whenever you create a table, make sure you've got one field that's going to contain unique values only and no duplicates. So if you look at my barcode or asset tag field, you can see that the data type auto number has been assigned to it, where it's automatically going to generate a number for each record sequentially and never duplicate the same number above. So sequentially would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. You can imagine if I got rid of this field and I started entering in 5 additional records with the same manufacturer on the same date, purchase price, and warranty, there's no way to identify those computers separately. At best, we could say, hey, we might have entered in 4 duplicates and only one of them is an actual record, when in all actuality, we did receive 5 computers on that day from the same manufacturer, purchase price, and warranty. Now, I know the auto number is not a barcode, so I want to go ahead and convert this into a simple number field where I can go ahead and enter in the barcode that comes off of the box of the computer or on the computer into this field. And I wanted to leave the auto number up there so you can see what it looks like when you use that data type feature, how it automatically generates a new number for you. But let's go ahead and tweak it and get rid of it by right-clicking on the tab and going to the design view. Now in the design view, you can see the first field there, the asset tag, and it's got auto number, but it also has a little key next to it on the left-hand side for the row or in that row header. Well, whenever you create a table, Access is automatically going to create a field for you. Call it generically the ID field. Let me show you. As you recall in an earlier training video, you come up here, click on the Create tab, go to the Tables group, click on Table. There's that field that's automatically been generated for you. It's generically called ID with the auto number data type assigned to it, and also the primary key has been applied to it as well. And what you can do is you can go ahead and delete it and then create your own, or just do what I'm doing, tweaking it, because, let me close out of it. Automatically generating a barcode is not what we're after. And also, if you're entering in employees, maybe you want to enter in their social security number as the unique field that's going to uniquely identify each record. So go ahead and change the data type from automatic to a simple number that you can enter in. And then as far as the length of the number, you can come down here into the corresponding field properties for the asset tag, for the data type number, and click in the field size and click on the drop down arrow, and let's see, you got byte, integer, single, double. If you want to learn more about what these field sizes are, just make sure the cursor is flashing in the field size box and hit the F1 key on the keyboard. It takes you to Microsoft's website. You can go ahead and scroll down, and there you go. You've got the integer that stores numbers in the tens of thousands, and then the long integer, a really long number. So if you want to keep the storage size small, if you're not going to use it in the millions here, but maybe in the tens of thousands, then choose integer. So that way, with all those records that you may have, you don't slow down the database. Let's go ahead and close out, change it from long to integer. And then, by the way, if the primary key, you didn't want it assigned to this field, you want to assign it to another field, like maybe the purchase price, which, by the way, ask yourself this: when you assign the primary key to it, it's going to be a police officer or a cop. In other words, you can say to yourself, I don't want any duplicates in here, but if you want help, then you assign it the primary key, and the primary key will never allow duplicates in that field and doesn't allow blank values, or for the front-end user to leave that field blank. They have to enter something into it. So when you're looking at a field going, okay, how about the purchase price? Will I ever have duplicates in there? Well, some of the computers are going to cost the same, so that doesn't make sense. But nonetheless, if you want to go ahead and assign to it to a field that maybe isn't going to be the purchase price, then go ahead and select the field, come up here to the Related Contextual Design tab, go to the Tools group, click on Primary Key. Now the primary key's been assigned to that, but I want it to be the asset tag, so select that. You can see that not only is it down here in the row header section for that field, but it's highlighted in the Tools group as well, the primary key. Let's go ahead and change views, go back to the datasheet view, which, by the way, you can click on the drop-down arrow and go to datasheet, but since it's right there, just click on it, and then be sure to save it, and then it'll go to the datasheet view. And you can see for the next record, it doesn't have in parentheses new. That's an indicator to me, or anybody who's learned Access, as far as the data type, the auto number goes, that it's not automatically generating a number. So if I come in here, and I delete that, and I type in 1, and I hit the tab key, and let's do Atlas, and let's check a date here. Let's do the 18th, hit the tab key, let's do 1000, tab, spacebar to check the warranty, and as you can see, I entered in a duplicate value as the one up above, so when I try to save it, by holding down Shift key and hitting Enter, it says, this would create duplicate values in the index, the primary key, or relationship, and that's a no-no. So we don't want no-nos. Go ahead and click OK, and then try it again. So what if we just leave it blank and then Shift Enter? You have to enter in a value because again, that little police dude, the primary key is saying you can't leave it blank and you can't enter in duplicates. So you click OK and you type in 3, Shift Enter, and the pencil's gone. It accepts it. Now there are 2 more keys that I want to introduce you to. I don't want to go over it in great detail. We'll cover those a little bit later on. But as Access is a process, I want to introduce it to you so you can start thinking about it. And to do that, let's go ahead and right-click and go back to the design view. And as you already know, you can assign a key to any one of these fields. You can assign 2 or more fields to a primary key. When you do that, it becomes a composite key. Now see if this makes sense. If you have an employees table, and you don't want to use anything unique as far as like their social security number or maybe their street address or specifically an employee ID, you just have the first name and last name. Well, some employees you may have the same first name like Bob, and some employees may have the same last name like Smith. But if you go ahead and you put primary keys on both the first name and last name, it means between the 2 there can be no duplicates. So they can have duplicate first names, duplicate last names, but they can't have the same first name and last name. In other words, the definition of the composite key is 2 or more fields assigned a primary key within a table changes the primary key into a composite key, and hence its combination is going to uniquely identify a record, allowing each field individually to contain duplicate data at any point, but not collectively. So if we want to go ahead and choose 2 fields, you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can go over to the row header for a field like date received in that little gray part to the left of date received until you can see a black arrow pointing to the right. Click on it and then drag down and you can select fields consecutively there, or if they're non-consecutive, go ahead and click on the row header for one, hold down the control key and click on the row header for another, and you can see between the 2 that the headers for each row are shaded. And then you can come up here in the Tools group on the Design tab and click Primary Key. You've got 2 primary keys, but it's referred to technically as a composite key whenever you have 2 or more fields assigned to a primary key. Then to go ahead and unassign the primary key, just select one of the fields that contains the primary key, and then come back up here to the Tools group and deselect primary key, and it removes it from both fields. Let's go ahead and put it back on the asset tag. And then finally, we've got the foreign key. Now the foreign key is a field you create in one table that will have the same data type value and relates to the primary key of another table. In other words, when you break your data down into the smallest, most meaningful parts or tables, like I've got computers here, then I'll have a table for employees. Well, each employee is going to have a computer. How do I relate to them or link them up between the 2? Well, what you would do in this case, as one example, is I'd create another field here and call it the employee ID and link the employee ID field here, known as the foreign key, to the primary key in the employees table, which I could also call the employee ID. Or from the employees table, I can do it the other way around. I can have the asset tag listed at the bottom of the table of the employees. That would be the foreign key, because that would relate to the primary key, the barcode in the computers table. And we'll go over this more in detail, but I want you to start thinking about it because actually in the next training video, when we learn how to create relationships, we need to make sure that we can relate these tables with primary keys and foreign keys. So my recommendation is each table ought to have a field that's going to contain unique values, a primary key, and then also to relate to the other tables so we can find out, in this case, the computers that are assigned to each employee in the employee table have perhaps maybe the employee ID below here that's going to link up again to the primary key, the employee ID in the employees table.